Honest community, before we dive into this episode, we've got a quick free favour to ask. If you enjoy the Honest Property podcast, please hit like, follow and subscribe wherever you're listening from. It helps us grow, reach more people and bring on guests that you want to hear from. Thanks for being a part of this. We appreciate you more than you know.
Welcome to the Honest Property Podcast. We're your hosts, Becky and Ruth. We love talking all things holistic entrepreneurship and being a modern investor. And on this episode, we are honoured to have guest Laura from Proper Plan. And we're going to be talking about all things productivity and navigating entrepreneurship. So we met Laura at a summit, which was the Long Haul Leader Summit. And it was amazing. When she stood on the stage and she gave her speech, we were like, she's so cool. We're like, she's amazing, like honestly amazing. We were just starstruck. We were like, we have to talk to her. Yeah, and she gave us little keepsakes, and we still use it to this day. Yeah. A little pink egg. But yeah, welcome, Laura. That's the egg.
You can see my procrastination egg, which I gave away to everyone when I was speaking at that event. And it's such a cool little trick. And yeah, procrastination eggs, they're brilliant and they're bright pink and I love them. And they're super annoying because they're so loud. But the idea of it, everyone's like, what on earth are you ladies talking about? One of the things I taught on stage was we can all do hard things. And sometimes if you just set an egg timer for 7 minutes, you can do a hard thing for 7 minutes, no matter what it is, whether it's walking or trying to run or sending that email that's really difficult. And I've just done so much data and research into what actually gets people stuck. And technology is amazing, but honestly, just a really annoying egg timer. In fact, I wonder if you can hear how annoying this thing is. It's so annoying.
It makes you kind of, when you see there's only 2 minutes left, you're like, get it before it starts yelling at me. But yeah, we were totally blown away by your speech. And then I think not long after you did it, we ran up to you and you were like, please hold us because we think you're so cool. And I think most of it was because we felt very seen in everything you were saying and the experiences that you'd been through. Because we'd been through that as well. And like constantly learning new systems all the time is exhausting. And we knew, you just said it out in language, that it's always about being organized with how you use your systems and like just being, and that it gives you that control back. And we were like, yes, but it was so nice for you to be able to confirm that for us, that we were doing the right thing.
Well, I've been in business for 10 years, 11 years actually this year, and coached thousands of people. I actually looked into my Stripe account this morning because I was curious on how many people I've actually worked with over the years. 69 people I've coached through launches. And it's a really kind of stressful thing to teach people. You know, you're teaching this big new strategy, very similar to what you ladies help your audience to do. There's so many moving parts. And I saw the same problems just cropping up time and time again. Like people were overwhelmed, they were procrastinating, they were feeling burnt out, they weren't taking action. And I just realized this is not a problem that necessarily was going away through my marketing training and coaching, no matter how much extra coaching, support, accountability, resources, swipes, templates, even designed like tech kits to help people. No matter what I poured in, I couldn't solve these problems. And I realized just actually the way that you run a business is really complicated online, that you've got probably 15 to 20 tools. You're learning new skills, you're taking care of clients, you're juggling all the things, and everyone is the same. Even the teams I was going and working into over the past 5 years, like amazing teams who've had 7, 8, even 9-figure success, also had the same problems. And I just realized that the overwhelm is not a problem that is, you know, resigned to just one group of people. It's to everybody. And so that's why I'm so passionate about what I do at Proper Plan, because we've created a tool that helps people, that removes overwhelm, especially entrepreneurs who have ADHD, which is 29%. And even if you don't have ADHD, you probably have very similar symptoms in feeling scattered, losing focus, feeling distracted. That presents in people who've got overwhelm anyway. So I'm on a mission to change that with my software and just try and do things a little bit differently, because we're all human and we all struggle, especially when you run business.
I think that's a good point as well, especially now that a lot of us modern entrepreneurs are online and you're spending a lot more screen time. It can get really overwhelming. So what the service that you're providing really helps kind of get rid of that overwhelm when you're spending so much time on the screen too. It just reduces and more efficiently the time.
You actually need to be on the computer.
Exactly.
Well, it's amazing. I think, you know, yes, I've got a tool and I teach people how to use that tool effectively. But actually, one of the things that I bundled into my software, so people join, they actually get a monthly power hour session with me, where I get to coach them and help them through and guide them through whatever's showing up for them, whether it's mindset or they're just feeling a bit overwhelmed or they don't know how to take this big, amazing, huge idea and just turn it into daily action. And a lot of the time, I'm actually teaching them like, well, how do you integrate software into your day-to-day life, but not feel like you're tied to a computer constantly? And so, I have this thing called my daily brain dump, where I have a remarkable notebook. I love it. You probably can't see this on this video because we're talking face-to-face on video. Over in the side there is my pile of journals I've collected over the years. And honestly, notebooks are a place where ideas go to die, because you've put them in there, you close them, you put it back on the shelf. And so I'm a massive advocate of, can you just keep a sheet of paper on your desk, brain dump everything out throughout the day that you need to remember, and then not try and use tools constantly to distract yourself. Because if you're in flow, right, you're writing, someone's natural instinct is, oh, I've got to do this thing. Let me go and put it on my notebook or on my screen, and I'll put it in my project management software. I believe actually the best systems are about having something that's analog next to you, like the egg timer for procrastination. Just set that for 7 minutes. Like, I just don't feel like, even though I have a tech company, that we should be wholly dependent on tools. We need to have ways of beating those kind of procrastination and lack of focus demons that present during the day. And sometimes old school, I'm saying this as a tech founder, sometimes old school can work just as well. So just being a little bit more organized, but having systems around it. So my daily brain dump is where everything goes. My favorite strategy with that is, ladies, do you ever get those moments throughout the day where maybe you're tired and then you see an advert pop up for like Virgin Atlantic flights, and all of a sudden you're looking at cruises and Disney holidays, and I'm like, I just want a holiday, right? Or I know that your family are in the Philippines, right? So it's the Philippines. I'm sure that was true.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah. So you're looking at, okay, well, let's get a flight over to Manila and let's go and see the family. It's like those kind of things can really distract us, especially when we're tired. So I actually let myself get distracted for 1 hour a week, and I call it my faffing hour. So I have this separate list. I write down all the things that are distracting me and that I just want to go and faff around with. Sometimes, honestly, ladies, it's like making spreadsheets look pretty. But I give myself that 1 hour guilt-free time of faffing to look at cruises and Disney holidays and flights and prettify all my spreadsheets. And I allow myself to do that during work times, usually around Thursday, 3 p.m. And so I don't allow those things during my week to distract me. I just assign a time that I'm going to go and procrastinate, and I'm going to do those things during my faffing hours. So it's so interesting, like, the work I've done is actually just trying to beat the humanness of how we get distracted, and we're all the same. Everyone does it, especially when we're tired.
I love that you say that, because it's like, don't resist the human in yourself. Let's just try, adapt, and find ways to make us more efficient, but accept that, yeah, we need a break. We need a bit of a mental break. We want to faff a little bit because it makes us happy to have our spreadsheet look a lot nicer, or feel like we can secure a good flight or something.
What's your faffing? What's your guilty faff? What do you like to spend your time?
I think it's, I'm such a nerd. I think I'm always
It's like learning something else that's nothing to do with what we're doing. It's just like something new. You just go, oh, that's interesting. And then we want to dive into what I'm talking. Just like, I'll just start randomly learning about something sciencey or astrology. Like, I'll just learn about something else, and then it's just taken me away.
But then that is such a deep hole, because the subject is so broad. Yeah, I think I'm also equally guilty of that kind of, I find a subject that interests me, and now I'm down a hole.
But I find, like, actually, so sometimes learning for me, I found over the years that comes in waves, and sometimes I'm in learning mode and sometimes I'm not. My first coach was an incredible human called Todd Herman, and he taught me that learning is not a revenue generating task. It's the action that you take as a result of learning. And I think, there's so many people who are course junkies and who are addicted to learning. I think there are seasons where learning makes sense, but it's what you do with that learning that actually turns it into action. It's actually why Proper Plan even exists, because I realized people were spending 12 weeks going through one of my courses to then struggle to take that launch plan and go and put it into a piece of software. And so they just simply weren't doing it. 10% of people were finishing my courses, but the data showed that actually the more of the course they did, the less likely they were to even launch their product in the first place. So I kind of felt intuitively that what they needed to do was take a bit of action, learn a bit, take a bit of action. We called it action learning in our program. But at that point, we didn't have the software that enabled them to learn all the strategy in the same place as they were planning. So our software, you log in and you've got the training and you've got the action steps. So it's like a project plan with learning baked into it, because it's that very thing. Learning can distract you even when it's intentional. So I think this is such a fascinating subject, and it's interesting because learning is important, but you have to take action afterwards.
That's so true. Applied knowledge is what actually matters.
Yes,
and there's so much information. Say you were learning to launch something and you went on Google and you were trying to identify a step-by-step plan with that. You can just end up not getting anywhere because you're just trying to absorb every piece of information about that particular thing that you never actually end up taking action. Like you said, that's the point.
Yeah, and I feel like as well now, especially as what we were saying before, like with modern entrepreneurship, a lot of people are online now, and to be able to survive in the modern way of working as a business, if you don't know how to organize and launch properly for any products or services that you're providing, then you're not going to last very long, and you're going to easily just constantly be distracted and get nowhere. So can I ask as well, like what was your background before you even decided to start coaching and going straight into creating this software?
I'm such a nerd. So my I went to university when I was a young mum. So I had kids first when I was 18, 19, and I went to university when I was 22, and I studied computer games design. I wanted to build computer games. Like, I just loved anything to do with racing games. I'm a massive racing geek. I love F1. I love fast cars. I've got like these really kind of, stereotypically masculine hobbies. So I used to snowboard, used to freestyle snowboard, love fast cars, and I love computer games. I've always kind of been that way. But I hated the fact on my degree that no one would talk to me. I was the only girl on the course, and no one was talking to me. And I was like, am I going to go into this computer games industry where men are terrified of me? I was like, okay, well, that's fine. I'm going to switch courses. So I moved into graphic design, and I was like, okay, this feels really good. I'm creative. I'm enjoying it. Okay, it's not what I thought I was going to be doing, but I really enjoyed the creative aspect. And then I discovered that I could code and design together at the same time. So I moved into building websites and e-commerce. So my first business was building, of all things, baby clothing e-commerce stores, and I got really good at it. But I realized that I could actually make more money through teaching people how to build websites. I made on my first workshop, I think it was around £2,000. It was around the same money it took me 6 weeks to make. And I was like, wow, this is leverage. Like, when you make that first bit of, passive income or semi-passive income, like your first affiliate sale, and you realize, oh, I didn't have to work an hour to make this. And you ladies know all about this with building property portfolios. When you start to see that money coming in, you realize, oh, well, I've been tied to an hourly rate forever. There are other opportunities. And so I just was launching more products and more trainings, and I loved it. And after a while, people were asking me, how are you doing this? And so I ended up teaching launches. So totally got the nerd side. I guess it makes sense now that I've got a tech company, because I still get to code stuff, which is super fun. But with this decade of launch marketing background and this creative side of me. So I feel like, looking back, it totally makes sense that I've built a tech company. It's just I went on a bit of a crazy long path to get to this point, but it all makes sense now. I can see every single thing that I learned and those pivots, even at the times when I was taking on projects. I don't know why I'm doing this. I feel like I need this skill set. And now looking back, I totally got why I wanted to do it. And it's all kind of worked out perfectly. And I love being a tech company founder. It's so much fun because it brings all of those things together. But yeah, it's been a crazy 11 years. But I'm so grateful for all those lessons I did learn through building websites and e-commerce and learning how to market, because now I've got all those skills to sell my software.
I love that. It's funny how life is, isn't it? You're like, okay, young version of you is like, okay, I'm really into racing and games, and that's the plan. I think mine was, I want to be a pilot, and that was the plan. And now we're all doing something kind of on a tangent, so they're connected in some way.
I love it. I love the journey of entrepreneurship. And I think so many people put themselves under such massive pressure to have it figured out. And I'm only just really starting to figure out my place in the world and what I want to do. It took me a really long time to find the business that makes me excited to get out of bed, even on a really cold, dark winter's day. Like my energy in the morning, I'm so pumped to be building these amazing features and to be helping people and creating a piece of software that serves people instead of, taking away from them, which is very different. And obviously I have a family business as well. So my whole family work in my business. So I just feel like it took me such a long time to get here. And I wished for such a long time, I just want to find my thing. I just want to find my thing. But we're all on different journeys. And sometimes it just takes you longer to get there. And you just got to have patience in that. And I'm so grateful to be here. Like you ladies, I'm sure you look back now and there were times when you were trying to get to this point that was so frustrating. And now you're here, you're like, this feels good. Like you find your purpose.
I think that is just, I don't know if that's just a personality type of an entrepreneur. You're patient. You're kind of like, I'm just going to go and do it, see what happens. And there's a lot of ups and downs, but you kind of are more likely just to roll with what's next.
I think people are afraid of making mistakes. And that's why a lot of people, especially women I've seen, don't even take that first step because they're worried about what they're going to lose. And often it's security and safety, approval from family and people who love them. So I think taking that first step can be so, so scary, especially for women. And especially, I find in times when there's economic uncertainty, that is even more heightened. I don't know. I guess what I just found through that journey is that there's more risk by not doing it because your happiness and everything else just kind of fades into insignificance when you're actually doing what you feel like you were born to do. Like, okay, it's risky. Well, so what? Everything's risky. It's risky being in a job where you can be made redundant tomorrow. So wouldn't you rather just like take that control and take things into your own hands? I know that's how I certainly felt. And I've never run out of money in 11 years. And that was my number one fear when I first started. Was like, if I run out of money, I'll give myself 2 months. And if I haven't got clients, I'm going to go and get any job. And I'd never run out of money. I've never had that happen at all. And I think there's so much safety actually in carving your own path and just taking constant imperfect action and just course correcting. Do you know, it's like a plane. Your plane is always course correcting. So you can go a little bit wrong and then just bring it back. And I think if you can just move past that, it has to be perfect and just always course correct, then you're never going to fail. You're never going to fail if you don't quit. So I don't know.
Just saying what you've just said as well is like, it's it's not about being perfect. It's having imperfect actions forward, but just organize it. Organize imperfect action is basically the key, isn't it?
Well, there's a really simple strategy for this, and I call this a quarterly goal, moving into a monthly milestone, and then a daily power move. And it's super simple. Every quarter, you're going to set yourself a goal, and then every month, you're going to decide what your monthly projects are. And then every day, you're going to do 3 needle mover tasks that move the needle against that project. And that's all you're going to focus on. You make that your top priority every single day. If you spent your time simply working on those things, all of the admin, all of the more reactive stuff, all of the minutiae, you will find a time to do that. But if you're always working on the single most important thing, then you are going to take action and you are going to succeed and you are going to make more progress. And it is about building a system around that. But what people do is they'll get up, they'll make a list first thing and they'll start plowing through. I just need to get all this admin out of the way. I'm like, you are wasting what I call golden hours. Your best time of the day, you are wasting it on things that are not going to help you be successful. And I think the more you shift that kind of priority from admin, reactivity, even client work, do not do client work first thing, do your work, do the thing that is going to help you to grow and make that your biggest priority. And it's a big shift. And some people feel a little bit guilty, but when you start to see the results, like, oh, actually, so how I structure my day and how I organize myself removes any of the kind of this could go wrong or that could go wrong or wasting my time on things that aren't important, because all you're working on every single day, your biggest tasks, the needle movers, are things that are actually going to help you be successful. And honestly, you can't really go wrong with that, because every month you can change that monthly project. And it's that little course correct every single month. It's why I'm so passionate about using tools as a way to build a system around it. because it's not just about the goal. It's like, what do you actually do with it? Like, what is your daily intention for that goal? I think so many people get it wrong.
I think that's so true, because I am also, hands up, guilty of making this big old list and looking at it and being like, I'm going to just go through it all and overwhelm myself because I put way too much on the to-do list.
From yesterday, she posted on our stories. We're like, we're going to because we were learning some other systems to get our time back. And we were like, oh, we can do all of these things on this list. By the end of the day, I was so overwhelmed because I realized, well, we have to check in with ourselves and go, this is unrealistic. We're not machines. We're trying to learn something brand new.
I think as well, there's two of us. So sometimes we feel like we've got the room or the brain capacity to get more done.
Because there's two.
Because there's two heads.
Well, do you know what I do in your instance? This is how I would recommend. So every quarter, you're going to get together, you're to talk about your quarterly goals. So this is our goal. Don't choose more than 3. So maybe 2 business, 1 personal. Because I think the reason we're doing this is so we can have a beautiful life. And I think if we don't always push ourselves with our personal goals, why on earth are we even doing this?
Yeah.
Where this gets different is every month you're going to get together. So we call this the power hour in the Proper Plan community. And you are going to look at your goal and you're going to decide, okay, well, what are the monthly milestones? What are those projects that we need to get done? And if you've got one goal, you're probably not going to have more than 2 or 3 monthly milestone projects that are going to help you to get there. For example, you want to launch this new course or a new program. Your monthly milestone is probably going to be, well, I need to create a new wait list, build a new nurture sequence, start my new audience growth campaign. And that would probably be it. Where people go wrong is then their to-do list and their best energy in the day is being spent on those admin and small tasks. And actually what you should be doing is your power moves. So what are those daily things that you need to do, just 3, that are going to help you to complete that project? Because let's face it, admin, you can do on the sofa. Small tasks, you can probably do with voice notes. Like there's so many things that actually, if you just put them in where you've got space, then your power moves are things that are going to help you move forward. But the key with you ladies is that one of you has one needle mover project, one of you has another, and you just have this separated kind of team structure with your needle mover projects. That is going to help you to keep structured. So my milestones are very different to Mark, to Megan, to Casey. We've all got different ones, but they all help us move towards that goal. And then you've got no overlap. And then you can actually manage those tasks. And then you do have space to do all the things, because both of you are like these productivity powerhouses who are just doing 3 things every day that are going to help you get closer to that. And all the small stuff, it almost becomes insignificant. But you also realize, actually, what we could do is we could outsource these pieces quite easily. They're not that important. I can let go. And I'm just going to say really focused on this. This is my zone of genius.
Hey guys, if you're new to property investing, we know exactly how hard it is to figure out where to start. That's why we created the Beginner's Roadmap. It's your guide to mastering the fundamentals so that you can move forward with clarity and confidence. Plus, you'll gain access to our free community for ongoing support. Just hit the link in the show notes. Now, let's jump back into this episode.
Because we've been talking about this a lot, just because you've been learning and trying to make sure that our systems doesn't take away from the joy that what we love about business. And well, yesterday it felt like we were doing these mundane tasks that were so boring. We're talking about these, we don't need to be doing these at all. That's our next step. But it just feels like what you're saying is right, is focus on the the things that's actually going to push you forward, bring joy and
daily power moves. Just 3 a day, 3 a day.
Yeah. And also, I think a big thing we also talk about is Becky and I try not to cross task too much and try and make sure that we stick to our own, would you say, the power move.
It's your zone of genius. Yeah.
And I think that's a really good point of just reminding us. Sometimes it can feel like when we're both in the business that we're one, but actually we're 2 people, and that one of us
can separate the tasks between each other.
Yeah, dependent on which project, so one person focuses on one project, the other person focuses on the other project, without trying to. I always can get quite complicated. Do you find for yourself, with your family? Do you get to that? Do you ever accidentally cross different projects and it gets a bit overwhelmed?
We've got really good. So I've been in business for 11 years. My daughter Megan is 23 this year. She's been in the business since she was 15. So 8 years. My son Casey is 21. He's been in the business for 3 years. My husband Mark, we've been married for a year, together for 5. He's been in the business for 4 years. So 4 years, 3 years, 8 years. Like, we've worked together for quite a long time, and we've found our zones of genius. I sometimes get a little bit too involved in things that I don't need to, because as CEO, that kind of happens. What I've learned to do is, as CEO, I'll do like the first 10%, they'll do 80%, and then I'll do the 10% at the end. So it's more like being really clear on my expectations and what's needed. They go and do most of the work. And then what we call a little zhuzh at the end from me is kind of all that's needed. And it has taken time. It's also taken time to get the team members and my family, well, they are my family, to get them into the right seats in the business as well. My son Casey, we were just trying to find, well, what's his zone of genius? He's very much focused on ads management now, so he's incredible at that. Megan's more brand and creative. Mark, we call him Mr. Community, and I'm the visionary. So I feel like we just really know our zones of genius now, and we stick in it. Also, I don't like doing any of the things that they do, but I do get involved where needed. But I've definitely learned to kind of pull back from that. But do you know what there is? There's a trust element in that. There's the trust in that your team and the people around you are also going to do a really good job. And it takes time, especially when you're starting to split roles. You kind of pull back a bit and just let things break almost. And then you fix it with systems. And that's what we did. And then over time, it's just like, okay, I can let go of this piece now. And it's interesting because in the letting go of those things, I realized I actually didn't like them anyway. I just liked to feel in control. But now I've got trust. I don't need to have the control element. And I think that's a very important distinction when you've got a team and you want them to grow. Like, you don't need to control that. You just need to trust it.
Yeah, I agree. And it's trying to also not be so perfectionist about what the other person is doing, and just go, I know, I'm happy with that, or just a quick check at the end and go, yeah, no, that's great. You've done a great job. And I think sometimes it must be hard to, like you said, to let go when you are close to those people. Yeah, close to those people.
Yeah. It's a funny dynamic, isn't it, working with your family? A lot of people say to me, and I'm sure you have this, like, how can you work with your family? For me, and I know we spoke about this when we met in person, it's the most incredible thing. Like, the trust and the bond and the shared purpose of what you're all building together is unlike anything else. And my challenge has actually been bringing people in who fit within our family dynamic, because, we can be a little bit weird and quirky. So also, when you come into our business, you're coming into our family unit. So, there are some interesting dynamics there, and bringing in different personalities who've got incredible skill sets. And I love having a family business. As a tech company, having a family business, I think that gives us a very different edge as well. And then your family values just run through, like everything that you do is about that. You approach things from a place of love. So I wouldn't change it at all. It took a while to get the team to work how I like to work, and teaching them how to be organized and giving them systems. But, I feel like we've got it really good now. And I think we've got to a really good place. And it's never perfect, but no team ever is. Yeah. At the end of the day, my kids actually don't call me mum at work, by the way. They call me Laura, because
I remember you saying that, and I was like, oh my goodness, that must have been quite an adjustment.
It was for them, yeah. But I just didn't want my children to, deposition themselves in front of our community by, let me just ask my mum. I'm like, oh my God, no, you can't. So, but then at the end of the day, I'm wife, I'm mum again. And we just kind of end the day as a team and start our evening as family. So it's beautiful. I absolutely love it.
I think it's really natural, actually. I find it quite interesting how most people don't see that as a normal business setup, but actually it is so natural. If you think about way back before industry, we were working on farms, and we all had like a little plots of land, and we all worked together.
Families together, yes.
And so it's natural.
From our benefit as well, we always say that with working together as sisters, because we know each other so well, we're kind of same but different. And if we have a dispute, it's very quickly resolved because it's not efficient and it's bad use of time. So we'll hug it out, get to the problem, find the solution, and then carry on, because it's just it's just, I think you just have to be like that when you're working together. You can't hold a grudge. If it's a family business, your values, like you said, just they run through the business, and you never you have to worry about wavering away from them, because we all have the same goal, everyone in the family to succeed and for us to be profitable. So
but that's an interesting piece around, shared mission and shared purpose. Like systems and tools are one thing, but unless you've got a reason for actually having those things in place, the systems are kind of become unnecessary. So I always say, like, you have to know what your principles are. You have to know why you're doing what you're doing. And the reason I love your brand is because everything I see is, it feels good, it feels honest, and it feels how it should feel. And so then when you're teaching or you're putting in new systems, you're doing things that are in alignment with your values, right? You're never going to put things in place in your business that are out of alignment with that. So I think you have to know yourself so well, and you and your team have to know yourselves really well. And then everything you're putting in place, you're doing it because of this. For us, everything we put in place is all about, how can we serve? How can we make people feel like a part of our family? And that's the edge that gives us. So, when we're putting things in place, like we tried this AI intercom system that enabled people to talk to AI. And I was like, this isn't loving. People are not feeling like they're being served. And although this was an amazing AI tool that was built to help us, actually what it did for us is it moved us away from our community feel. So I stopped doing it. Not every tool and system is going to fit. You just got to find your own thing that feels good to you, and it is going to give you that edge. I think you just have to really know yourself. You have to have principles that guide you around what you do and how you do it. And I think that's a really important distinction to make, is like, don't just put something into your business that someone else has got, like this tool or that tool or this system or this AI gadget. Like, really think through, like, what value does this add to my business? Does this actually fit within my values? And does everyone feel good about it? Because there's just so much stuff out there. And if you just keep adding things into the business for the sake of it, eventually you're going to scrap it anyway, and it's not going to feel good. I think that feel good factor is important.
I think that's a really good point that you said, actually, because I remember you were launching that AI within your company. So it's amazing that, because the rest of the world is like bringing in so much AI into the companies, and you've gone, actually, I'm just not going to do that.
Well, I do have it, but it's just in certain places. Yeah. For us, having it customer facing, replacing us, I'm like, no. Having it replacing writing is different. So we are an AI project management tool, and I just want to be really clear that we have got that. But I don't want to have it on customer support, because
we were just talking about this yesterday, about we are craving as humans more and more community, because we are more online now. And by taking away that customer support, it's just so funny that you're talking about this now, because you were saying, like, when you end up on a bot to someone to get through to your banking, but then it takes a long time to, imagine if you didn't get to a human at the end of it. Wouldn't you be really frustrated?
I'd be so and I have been very deflated that I've not actually been seen to, and it's been a waste of time, and you don't feel like anybody like that cares about you.
Yeah. And so a lot of time they bypass it. You're like, no, I want to speak to a human. Talk to a human. How many ways can I phrase this? Talk to a human, speak to someone. I don't want to talk to a bot. And I get really angry and start typing away. And I don't know, AI, I'm such a massive advocate of AI for workflows, for tools, for systems, and for speeding things up. But don't let it replace the heart of who you are and what you do. Allow it to amplify you and your voice, because I just know how frustrated I feel. So I am with you on that one.
It's such a double, it feels like a bit of a double-edged sword, because we love using AI for our business.
One system, just to jump in there, because one of the systems that we have to use, that we're learning to use, is a portfolio management software. And what it does is there's also a tenant communication feature on it. And that kind of was a new feeling for us, because before we had direct communication with our tenants. But we don't want them to feel like we've got too much of a barrier up against that communication, because we want them to feel like, obviously, we want to tend to their issues as fast as possible, but also in a way that respects our boundaries. So yeah, there's tools there that can help you manage your business.
I was going to say, but as long as it doesn't dehumanize you as the founder of the business, or whoever's working the business and the customer service part of it, that's still so, I think, even more important now. in 2025, because that feels like it's just being lost. And I think if you're a business that can continue to provide that, you're going to really last.
And so in that instance, it's, tools can help and they can hinder. And I think AI replacing your humanness becomes a hindrance to other people, even though you feel it's a help to you. So what can you do to maximize your time so you can spend it on the bits where, the heart piece, the helping, the serving, because then you do have that edge. And I think especially small business owners, people who've got small property portfolios and they're feeling overwhelmed, just be very mindful that you're not taking away the parts of you that people actually love and they want to have that connection, relationships, your tenants, people that are paying you money. Look at other ways that you can simplify and shortcut that don't take away you, because I just feel like AI is not there. And we just need to be very mindful of that speeding up that kind of process, speed it up through systems, don't speed it up through talking and communication. Like people want to hear from you, right?
Can you imagine if we had like a customer response bot on the end of every like tenant maintenance issue? Like I just feel like they wouldn't feel like we care. I think, everyone's different. Every business is different. But if you have community values and that's your, like you say, your heart piece. I love like the terms you use, because you just feel them and you're like, yes, that's the best way to describe that thing.
I love that you also have a community for Proper Plan as well, because you don't leave people hanging, because I think we were saying before that you can automate all of these things, but then if you don't have anyone to talk to at the end, then what's the point of doing or buying a software or doing a course when to be left feeling lonely?
Yeah, I think I always say this, and I said this at the beginning of my launch journey when I first started coaching people through launches, is at that point, all my competition, and I say quote unquote competitions, I don't really believe in that, but the people who were buying programs were buying them from people who'd got, 7 and 8 figure success. And I was just trying to help people sell their first products and make their first 10K. And so I had this kind of, I don't know where it came from, but I said, I can't be that person. Promise you that. But what I will promise you is that I will outcare any coach that you have ever worked with, and I will show up for you ways that no kind of celebrity in the online marketing space can do, because they're so far away from you. And I think I tapped into this kind of wanting to show up for people and caring for people, and it really helped me to stand out. Like I think there's that thing like a unique selling point. There's no such thing. There's only you, a unique you. So I think when you lean into that, that's the differentiator, no matter whether your business is coaching, courses, or property. Like that's what people are going to buy into. When I then moved into tech, I could see all these massive players, like these huge companies with the worst customer service. And they're building these free models where you get free software. But guess what? You're also not getting help, and you're not getting guided through, and you're not getting support. So yes, it's a different model. Maybe we won't ever have a company that is as big as the big players within the project space. But equally, I don't want that. I want to build something that's different and that has got heart and that feels good, and that every day I wake up proud, instead of going, okay, yeah, we made loads of money and we've had all these complaints and all these like bad reviews about us online. Like, no, that's not the kind of business that I want to build. And so I just think you have to be really sure of what you want and why you're building it and how you want to show up, no matter what you're doing. And then all the systems, all the tools, everything else fits around that. Like that's who you are and that's how you're showing up. And ultimately, that's why people are going to buy from you. And that's why people are going to want to do business with you, and why people want to build relationships with you is because of that, not because of your product.
Yeah. Yeah. I also wanted to add to that as well that I can't remember where I saw this stat, but it was saying how, well, mainly female entrepreneurs, or like small family run entrepreneurs, mainly by women, whether it makes a difference or not, but we're saying that like they are in business for a lot longer. Maybe they don't make as much profit as mainly male businesses, but they last longer, and the people that work for those businesses are a lot happier, because it's not just trying to be the one in the industry that is the best and makes like the most, because that doesn't matter. Like
it's the nurturing. It's our feminine nature to nurture.
Yeah.
And we want people to feel good and
feel seen and feel cared for. And we always like to say that wealth looks different on everyone. So like you might not want to be making 10 million, but maybe 5 million is better.
I will take gladly 5 million a year in my software. Thank you, please. That's the goal. But I'm not going to sacrifice like who I am in that journey and in that process. And it's so interesting because obviously I'm in a very different space. I raised investment to build proper plan to give us speed. And I'm very much surrounded by lots of bro dudes in the tech space who are like, oh, I'm going to go and raise this, I'm going to raise that. And all like bro boys and the boys club. I'm like, no, let's not. It is about doing things really differently, but I don't know. There is a lot of statistics, actually. I don't have any to hand around the profit of female businesses, and you're 100% correct about the longevity piece as well. And this is why we need more female CEOs, frankly. But that's a whole different podcast, isn't it? Today we're talking about systems.
Yeah, there is a version of everything. There is a version for everyone out there, put it that way. But if you want community, if you want something long lasting, I feel like you're definitely creating a space that feels that way. And I really hope we are emulating anything like you guys have been as well. Because
I think that's why we like magnetized to each other, because we're like, I love you.
Just sort of on stage, we were being like, wow. Yeah. So much, and I feel so seen. You see as well, sharing things online, and one thing leads to another. Just the path generally, you attract the right people, you'll attract the right customer, the right tenants.
Business with heart.
Yeah,
business with
heart. And I do feel, maybe I always say this, and Becky laughs. I say maybe I am in an echo chamber, but everything I see is that is the future, and it's becoming more prominent that maybe if you're not even a female-led business, but you have a very feminine way of running a business, it's becoming more that, because we are so lost from how the masculine way of doing business for a long time just isn't fitting what the world needs now. And I really personally believe that shift is happening. So you're in the right industry. We hope we're in doing the right thing in the industry as well, because yes, of course you're in business to make a profit, but at the same time, there's a calling, a need for a change. And personally for us, there's always been about also caring about the planet, and we wanted this change. Yeah, so you just have to make it. Yeah, exactly. We do have a new thing that we're doing on the podcast, and it's a really simple way to end this episode, but it's basically a sentence. So if you don't mind completing it for us, it's basically, honestly, the biggest thing I've learned is...
That's a really good question. Honestly, the biggest thing I've learned is there's no right or wrong. There's only your way.
Yes, that was very sure. I like that.
I don't know where that came from. It came from my heart, and it came from an honest truth. Because there will be so many people out there who will say, do this and do that, and you can listen to experts and they will have opinions, and that's amazing. Take what feels good, ignore the rest, and just carve your own path. And that's the path to happiness in business, actually, is just carving your own path.
Yeah, I love that. Where can our listeners find you, and where can they reach out?
2 places. So if you want to watch the kind of journey, the behind the scenes, the raw and real truth, where I cry on my stories about fails in my tech company, and then the next day I'm like champagne and celebrating wins, that's Tech Life. Laura Phillips HQ, 2 L's, is my personal brand. If you really just want to learn more about our software, Proper Plan is our handle for that. And I love to connect, by the way. Like, send me a voice note. There is nothing nicer than getting voice notes from people. So I would love to connect and to get to know your lovely community as well.
Yeah, I think you're going to be so beneficial for our community, because we do have a lot of overwhelmed entrepreneurs that really need.
Well, here's my final thing I'm going to say to you. And actually, this is for both of you as well. What I want you to do is today, obviously, if it's not a weekend, then don't. Because a weekend you should be resting. But I want you to be very clear on what are your top 3 tasks for tomorrow. And this is my religion is my top 3. And that's all you're going to write down on a Post-it note or a notebook. And you're going to do task 1. And you're not going to move on to task 2 until task 1 is done. And the same for number 3. And it's not my must-dos or my reactive stuff. the things that are going to help you to be more successful. And if you just do your daily top 3 every day, you'll be amazed by how much progress you make. Like there can't be overwhelm because you're just doing 3 things and building that muscle. So no more overwhelm, just 3 things.
Keep it simple. Keep it simple.
Yes.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you for having me.
Really appreciate you being on the podcast. You are
Amazing.
you are amazing.
Ditto, ladies.
We'll put everything in the show notes below so that you can directly see where you can get in touch with Laura. But yeah, we hope to have another chat again really, really soon. But thank you so much for being on the episode, Laura.
Thank you so much for having me. It was an absolute pleasure.
Bye.
Bye.